Are we ready?
Yes, we are.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to another episode of... Okay, there's no episode. Wow. Okay, wait now.
I've lost my voice. Please don't let it disappear.
It's not disappearing.
It's too much laugh. It's not good.
You're the one who went to sing in church. Did I who sang it? What is this? Wait, let me understand. So when you do that will clear your voice.
It's supposed to, but I don't know if it's working.
But if you do it without the hand,
it will not work properly. The hand will help it work quicker.
Sorry. Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Oh, Jesus.
Welcome to another episode of
The
Andersons.
It's not the Andersons, please. This channel is called the Love Nest.
Oh yeah.
It's the Love Nest.
It's the Love Nest. Pardon me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's roll.
It's when you forget the name of your own channel.
No, I didn't now. I didn't.
You didn't.
I did not. You're looking cute though.
Oh, thank you.
Fresh face.
Hey. You will soon end this video now. You will
Sorry,
explain
we're not
yourself.
ending. Wait, let's roll.
Okay.
Let's do it and then we can end it at the end.
Oh, okay. Hello everyone.
Hi everyone.
It's good to have you guys with us again. I think we've been off YouTube for a bit.
For a while, yeah.
Anyway, we're back. So today we've decided we're going to be talking about identifying past traumas that are affecting your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we chose this topic because we've talked about it amongst ourselves, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's something we've discussed.
Relationships as well, actually.
Yeah, well, true. Not just marriages, but relationships.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when like someone is in a good relationship, and you can quite see that it's heading to marriage.
Yeah.
You know? But
there's something.
Your previous experience and your past trauma is just in the way.
Yeah, in the way. Back.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to answer. So I think first thing is what qualifies as past trauma?
To me, I think what qualifies as past trauma is something that leaves a negative impact in your life.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be damaging.
Okay.
But it could be something that changes your thought patterns.
Yeah.
Or the way you respond to certain things.
Yeah.
Maybe you grew up, in a family where something was repeatedly happening and that thing wasn't good. And then in your mind, you made up your mind, I will make sure that this. You set something in your mind that it will never happen in your own family in future or something, but it's usually a negative thing that leaves an impact in your life.
You said that some of them can be patterns that then leave a lasting scar. And then you make a decision because of your experiences that you will not run those same patterns. And that then means that if you've made a decision, like for instance, let's give an example. Say you grew up in a family where there was physical abuse.
Yeah.
Maybe father against mother or vice versa, and you watched it happen.
All the time.
Yes. You will then find that before each episode of abuse happens, there's usually a lead up to it. There's usually body language and arguments leading up to it. And you make a decision and you say, you know what? I'm going to make sure that in my own family, we don't run this pattern of physical abuse. But what then happens is, once you see a particular behavior that you recognize as a behavior that used to lead
up to the fight
and to the abuse, you immediately react. That thing is called a trigger.
A trigger, yeah.
So for instance, I give you an example similar where there are people who grew up in such abusive homes, and before the physical abuse happens, there's usually verbal abuse, name calling, and raised voices. Then you're dating this person, and then you find that whenever you raise your voice, even if you just raise your voice to make a point, you're not really heading for an argument, you're not really heading for a fight, but you just raise your voice to make a point, boom, they're triggered. And they react
as if they want to stop something before it happens. Don't raise your voice at me.
Exactly.
Don't do that. I won't take it. It's as if don't even start. Let's end it here now, because I don't want to be like my parent.
Yeah.
They might not know that that's what they're doing.
Yes.
But if you think back, if someone brings their attention to it, they might realize,
that's
this
what
is
it might
where
be.
it stems from. Yeah.
Again, you've made a point.
Yeah.
You said that sometimes the people who are running these patterns and who have experienced this trauma and who are being triggered by this trauma don't recognize that it's a trauma.
Yeah.
Past trauma they sometimes need other people to point it out
yes.
to them.
Yes.
And I think we'll talk about sort of the first thing we should talk about really, I think, is how to recognize. How to recognize that you're running a trauma pattern. I call it running a trauma pattern.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about how to cure.
I think the first way to recognize it is looking into yourself. It's not easy all the time to recognize, but I believe that if you're in a relationship and there's something your partner always mentions or talks about, that maybe something that you do or something that they don't like that you do, you should think about it yourself. Say, is this what I've been doing? Is this how I've always been?
Yeah.
What is causing? If you look inward, you can actually figure it out by yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might not know. You might say, "Oh, that's how I am."
Yeah.
Your partner might help you figure it out, but you need to be open. You need to work together, as people in a relationship. That's the only way you can grow. So it's not always possible for you to recognize, but it's possible with the help of God for your partner to point it out to you and you both work on it. But it's something that always repeats itself. It's not something that is a one-off.
It's usually a pattern.
It's usually a pattern. So it's something that you do every time something happens. Every time there's a situation, there's always a way that you react to it. So that way, like you said in your example, trying to cut raised voice before it even goes into an argument. If you keep doing that all the time, even when somebody is not trying to raise their voice, you feel like they're trying to raise their voice. Yeah. You are now becoming aggressive. I mean, somebody points that out to you. It's something for you to think about. Yeah. And if you change that, you're already changing a lot in your life, and that relationship will be better for it. So yeah, that's a good way to recognize it. Looking into yourself and listening to what your partner has to say.
And the truth is that our experiences form our thought patterns.
Yeah.
And our thought patterns form our behaviors.
Yes.
Our behaviors then form our habits, and our habits then form our character and our personality.
Right? Preach, preacher!
I can preach, shall we?
Stop it. Continue.
Where was I?
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Go on.
Right. Okay. Fine. So I'm just saying that to say that if the way to self-reflect regarding these trauma patterns is if it's brought to your notice that you react a certain way to certain triggers, the first thing you should wonder is, what are the thoughts in my mind when I'm reacting like this? And if you can find the thought, you may be able to go back and find the experience that led to that thought.
To it, yes. Definitely.
And do you know what is interesting and what makes this even more difficult is that some of the trauma patterns that we run, it's not even your trauma. There are people that run trauma patterns of other people. That friend came and okay, let me give you an example.
That's true.
Let me give an example. When I was coming to the UK, right? I had a patient who called me. He really liked me. So he called me and he said, "Doctor, I like you. You've really treated me well. But I don't think you should travel to the UK with your wife."
Yeah, you said that, I remember.
And he told me his own experience. And his experience was horrible. It's not something I can share. Okay?
Yeah.
But he traveled to somewhere in Europe with his wife. And it became the worst decision of his life. In fact, at the time he was talking to me, he virtually had nothing to his name, and he had no self-esteem, etc. Right? So I could have picked up that trauma and run a pattern with it. And what that meant was that if my wife ever, let's say, started becoming very successful, or becoming a bit more confident, or a bit more outspoken, or a bit more opinionated, I could run that trauma pattern and say, this is what that man experienced. It has started. Let's cut it short. And then you find that in her innocence, you might bring up an opinion, or you might bring up an idea, something you want done a certain way. And rather than accept it as, okay, my wife has a thought about this, I would run a trauma pattern based off of someone else's
experience.
Yeah. So not always my experience, not always even my parents' experience. Sometimes not even the experience of people that are close to me. Sometimes it's the experience of people that have just told you stories or something you've read online.
You see online, online nowadays there's a lot online. There's a whole lot of things.
Incredible.
You might see a discussion about marriage and how somebody's marriage ended and how the person was treated in the marriage. You now be like, oh, nobody will ever do this to me. Nobody will. In your mind, you've already decided.
And you've made it.
So once you see a leg that looks like it might be that leg, you got it. You don't even know if it's actually it. You don't confirm. You just decide. So all those things, you need to make sure that you're not making decisions based off of things that are not tangible.
Yeah.
Things that are not not well informed about.
And you know what? Yeah. You know what? I don't want to go deep into the effects of running trauma patterns, but I just want to bring one thing out. Running trauma patterns is one of the most unfair things you can do to a partner. You have a partner who hasn't done something wrong, but because of a certain experience or certain story, you then begin to judge them prematurely.
Prematurely, yes.
You can run a trauma pattern where there's been maybe lack in the past, maybe with your own family or with someone else's family. And the moment you ask your spouse for a thing, and then obviously at that point you've experienced that trauma or someone else experienced that trauma and you've made up your mind that, look, I would never be in lack. I would never put myself in a position where I'm in want.
I'm in need, yes.
Okay. Or I'm dependent on someone else. And then you ask your partner for something and then they say, oh, I don't have it now, but once I have it, quickly you take offense. Quickly your trauma pattern kicks in. And you go, this is what I'm talking about. You are stingy, you are not generous. Is that really correct? Okay, so every time they refuse to give you something, you're triggered immediately. You quickly trigger. So first thing, obviously, you said is self-reflection.
Yeah.
Sit down with yourself.
Yeah.
Especially if someone has pointed out a pattern to you, sit down with yourself and ask yourself, what is the thought process leading to this pattern? And what is the experience underlying the thought process? And I think you already mentioned the second point as well. People can be the ones that point out to you that, and I think, to be fair, I think people can point out a pattern to you. They may not be able to point out the experience to you.
Yes.
You may need therapy.
Yes, that's another thing.
To find it out.
Yes, that's another thing. Because if you feel like there's a pattern that keeps repeating in your relationship, maybe you dated somebody that you broke up because of one thing, dated another person, and they're pointing the same thing out. You're breaking up. You can't seem to figure it out. You don't believe it's your fault, but they're all saying it's your fault. You might need therapy at that point. You might need to talk to somebody that is neutral and doesn't know you, and then bear your mind. At the end of the day, you might find out, oh, that might be me, And therapy goes a long way to help people. Yeah. People, we don't know. Some people don't believe they need it, but if you feel like there's something in your life that's not going well, even if you can't put your mind to it or put your finger to it, you need someone to talk to. You need a therapist. Do it, and you will see your life better for it. Yeah.
We once had a friend, you might remember this, you once had a friend who, I don't know how she experienced this trauma, but it was a trauma around, again, physical abuse.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember that her husband mentioned that the father had pulled him to the side and said, look, any day you think about, physically abusing my child, just return her to me.
Yeah.
And that meant that there was something going on. But then we found out that this lady used to be easily triggered when her husband raised his voice. Even in normal conversation or when the husband becomes slightly more authoritative than usual. Say something like, listen to me, you have to listen. Or when he displays certain behaviors like pointing at her.
Yeah.
She just goes off the handle. She goes completely off the handle. On one occasion, she damaged things in the house.
Wow. Yeah.
And you don't need to be told. There is a trigger in there somewhere. Yes. There's an experience that is driving this pattern.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how to find it out. What about ways that we can sort of start to heal from this trauma? And obviously, first step is recognition, isn't it?
Recognition, yeah. Recognition is the first step because that's the only way you can know what the problem is. Yeah. And how to heal from it is basically, number one is pray. I would say pray to God. Let God help you because there's nothing, you can't do anything on your own. And this is a pattern that has been going on for years. it's like a habit now, because it's difficult to break such patterns. It's not something that you can do by yourself. God will help you do it. And at the same time, you need to be conscious of it in every interaction you have with your partner or even with anybody. You have to be conscious of it, conscious of the way you are reacting to things, and be open to your partner and tell them to help you, work on it. Because if it's something that you're doing and your partner is not liking it, they will help you. There's no way they will not help you.
Yeah.
If you tell them, oh, help me, if I want to do this, remind me. That's like a reminder in front of you there. So at some point, you will see that when you don't do that thing once, twice, 3 times, that he reminding you and you're staying away from it, you find that you've broken that pattern. You will stop doing that thing over time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not something that will just, wake up and you stop doing it, because you formed the habits. So it needs time to be able to, unlearn everything again.
Yeah. So if someone is going to help you as a partner, the person has to be patient with you.
Patient with you, yes.
So the second thing that I think can help with trauma is getting yourself a support network. In fact, to be fair, sometimes that support network might need to consist of people who have also experienced some form of trauma or who are in the same shoes as you, or who have even gone through it. Or it might simply be people who are, like accountability partners. I think that if you have experienced significant trauma, it's very hard to just heal by yourself on your own. It's not impossible with the help of God, but a lot of times you're going to need outside help. True. And that help might come in the form of your therapist, can come in the form of your pastor or counselor, or in the form of a support group, as in a group of friends whose heads are screwed on right.
Yes. That's the point. That's key.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Not the kind of friends that will simply make things worse.
Make jest of
you know, there are people who you tell. I'll give you an example. I keep going back to this physical abuse thing. I'll give you an example. You go and tell them that, that I don't know what's happening to me. Every time my husband even so much as raises my voice, I will tear his shirt and just scatter the whole house. I don't know. I think there's something not quite right. And instead of your friends going, you know what? I think there's something not right. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. And they then go, but why should he even raise his voice at you?
They'll support you.
And they will support you. And you keep running your pattern.
Yeah.
You know? Anytime, whenever my husband doesn't compliment my food, I just get very, very angry. I just get very angry and I stop cooking for him for days.
He should compliment your food now. Every year. You stress yourself to cook, so he should. If he doesn't compliment, in fact, don't give him the food again.
Okay, you're not helping. There's a situation here. You're not helping.
Yeah.
And obviously, the people who you're talking to should understand marriage and relationships and human beings in general enough to know that when something is a recurrent pattern, there's usually an underlying factor.
Yeah.
You can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
You can't stress that enough. And the truth is, babe, do you know what I found out? I feel like if you are in a relationship and you've ever been in a relationship, or you're married and you've ever been in a relationship that eventually didn't work out, whether you accept it or not, even if the trauma is not major, you may have collected micro trauma.
Yeah, true.
You may have collected micro trauma.
True, very true.
Because it is factored into our behavior as human beings to try to protect ourselves physically and emotionally.
Yes.
And it's simply your brain trying to help you. That once the brain recognizes a pattern that hurt you in the past, it puts measures in place. But sometimes, unfortunately, those measures can be what is damaging a good thing for you.
And end up causing problems in the future. Yeah. Wow.
Anyway.
This is deep.
Deep, man.
Very deep.
That's deep. Anyway.
But God will help us. God will help us. You can't say you won't live life. You can't say you won't date because you don't want to be heartbroken. You can't say you won't, you close off and wait for your husband. How are you sure that the person you're waiting for is your husband?
Even if the man comes, you can drive him with your trauma pattern.
Exactly. So you have to experience life and go with God in everything you're doing, and make sure you're doing things right. Make sure you're not, reacting out of emotions, or you're not reacting out of trauma, and you're not reacting without thinking, because that's the only way you can live in peace with your partner or your husband or your wife.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I think it was a good one.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. Let us know if you want us to do more of this, and let us know if you want us to discuss any other topics about marriage or relationship.
And if you have any examples, I think most importantly, because I think people will benefit more from live stories, live examples. If you have any examples of marriages that that have survived these past traumas, or who are in it and who may not have survived it. It's really important you share these stories so that other people can learn and know that they are not alone. And if there are tips as well, obviously.
You can send us a DM. It doesn't have to be in the comment section. It doesn't have to be in the comment section. If it's private, you can send us a DM. If it's something you want us to talk about, you can send it anonymously. We will not mention your name. We'll talk about it. That's what we're here for. Yeah. So thank you for watching till the end. Thank you for being with us, and please subscribe. Subscribe to our channel. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, and make sure you share to your family and your friends, because that's the only way we'll be able to make more impact. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We wish you a lovely, lovely week ahead.
See you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.